one of the biggest pieces when it comes to EDI testing is depending on the industry that you're dealing with, depending on who the tester is, if you're testing directly with the actual trading partner or if the trading partner has third parties that are handling the testing, all of those things. The parts and the pieces to it is it's going to drive you nuts if they're giving you generic testing rules. So like I don't try to do this on my sessions that I have here. One of the big things that most people in the retail space that can agree with me is you may have gone through the SPS commerce testing, where you have a trading partner that is utilizing SPS and their testing portal. Which is their testing portal convenient? It is when it works. Let's just put it that way. It is when it works. So one of the big things that I always say to people listening, when you're going to get into testing and you're going to do testing for EDI, first know who on your team can understand to sign off on the process. So whether you're doing claims for healthcare or you're doing, transportation documents or you're doing purchase orders, whatever you're doing, who on your team can verify and validate the information. So let's get the people and the personnel figured out before we get into it. And let's make sure we understand what the business process is like. And let's have an understanding that if you're dealing with some of these different third-party testing entities, they're going to drive you nuts. Because one of the biggest things that a lot of these companies forget to do that are handling the testing, if it's outsourced, is they're going to give you generic requirements. Well, that does you no good. I'm going to give you a generic requirement that you're never going to do in your business or however you handle things with them, because somebody wrote a platform that says, hey, you have to do X, Y, and Z for everybody. That makes absolutely no sense. People can disagree. Again, everybody has their own mindset. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying. You don't have to do any of that. But what I feel is put them through an interview process. Say, do you do drop ship? Do you do claims? Do you have multiple insurance providers? Do you have X, Y, and Z? Figure out what does that business relationship look like, or what is it going to look like? If testers and people put the processes through their paces of what reality is and what reality looks like from a business sense, and maybe you ask some questions and you say, oh, you do wholesale, or you ship directly to customers. You're doing drop ship, cross dock. This is what our relationship looks like for how our businesses are going to interact with each other, or who's buying from who, or who the insurance providers are, all of those things. So first, know your business process, know the people that are involved, understand who is on the other side of that testing. Are they generic? Are they somebody that's looking at it from a generic aspect? A lot of people feel as though when you sign up with one of the larger entities, and just because it's off the shelf, out of the box, it's automatically done testing. It's not true. And again, I don't want to speak about companies, but I think in order to paint the picture, I have to speak about companies. So if you have TrueCommerce as your platform, which a lot of people are using TrueCommerce, and we're just going to say you're using TrueCommerce for handling Costco, okay? TrueCommerce has done Costco numerous times, numerous interactions, but Costco utilizes SPS. Costco is going to make you go through testing because that's what SPS is putting on as a requirement. And you're going to go through testing using the Costco test portal supplied by SPS. Is it built off of your relationship that you're utilizing? No. Is it generic? Yes. Does it understand everything that you do? No. Are you going to possibly have to ask for exclusions? Yes. Is that going to be a pain for you to get excluded? Yes. Because you're going to have to get that exclusion sign off by Costco personnel, who then you're going to have to send that to SPS, and hopefully SPS takes that exclusion or takes that sign off that you don't have to do a certain aspect of the testing. What I'm getting at is, just because you're dealing with a company like True Commerce and they're constantly interacting with different people using Costco, different companies that are using True Commerce, you're still going to have to go through testing. Doesn't make sense, does it? Well, that's reality. And the reality says, just because you think they're going to be passed and approved automatically doesn't mean it's necessarily going to happen. Even when you sign up with that, if you go with SPS and SPS already has that testing relationship with Costco and Costco is using SPS for their EDI processing, guess what? You still have to go through and get brought online by their SPS fulfillment team. And then you'll have to go through, and just because you start sending documents automatically, because fulfillment has passed you, quasi, you're still going to end up, failing when you send documents to Costco, because there's probably going to be missing information and missing things in the relationship. And people may not agree with it, but that's typically what's going to happen. Now, if you're testing directly with a trading partner has their own EDI, or you get lucky and they have a provider that actually builds things off of your requirements and how you interact. Now, what you want to do is you want to work out, what's that relationship look like? What documents are you going to be able to do and you can't do? Some people can't send purchase order acknowledgments. Some people can. You have to work through and look at, what are they requiring? What are they asking for? And figure out, can you do it? And if you can't, find somebody that can help you, whether they're internal or they're a company like ours, EDI support, that can give you some guidance. Every relationship has small differences between a trading partner and a customer, or how you're interacting with them. No two partners are exactly the same, even within the same industry. Even if we go in the same industry and selling a very similar product, things are different. Okay. When you go to begin that testing process, figure out the people, figure out what you're needing to cover, figure out what you can cover and what you can't cover, figure out what your business processes look like. If you take notice, I'm reiterating things and I'm adding things as we're going along, so that you can understand there's different moving pieces and parts to that testing process. There's different moving pieces and parts to people signing off. It's not a snap your fingers and it's taken care of. So you have to also build in that timeline. You have to build in that it's going to take time to get brought online with a particular trading partner. Even if you're dealing with companies that say, oh, we've done this 1,000,000 times and we can break through and we can bring you online like that. We can bring you online tomorrow. But what does that look like? Does that look like full integration with your back-end system, or does that look like you're doing things manually in their platform? Everybody has a different mindset of what they're saying is completed. Mine is, how is this going to look when you do it in a normal day-to-day? EDI support is no longer involved, or they're out of our system. What does that process look like? That's when you're live and done with testing. Not your EDI provider saying, well, that's all we guaranteed, or that's what we thought was testing. Full integration's not testing. You can do it manually. No, you can't. Because maybe you don't have the team or the personnel to keep up with it, to do it manually. So understand that part. You need to know, where is your EDI provider, and is it manual, or are we doing full integration testing? You want to do full integration. So you want to build out a plan. You want to have timelines. You want to ask them for prompt feedback and guided in the troubleshooting. I've seen testing take months because who you're testing with can't give you what the reason is that your documents are failing. How crazy is that? You send a document to them, to the testing site, and they can't give you a response as to what failed. It just went into limbo, and nobody knows where it's at. Well, every day that goes by extends your timeline. So sometimes you don't know where you're at in the process. Sometimes you don't know, is your lead that you're reaching out to for testing, are they dealing with 30 other companies that are trying to test at the same time you are? Well, guess what? That means you're going to fall in and they're going to respond to you whenever they feel like. It could be 24, 48 hours, can be all of those things. So a lot of the bottlenecks, manual processes, manually creating and sending and reviewing test files, no automation for validation and acknowledgements, slowdowns in their iteration and increases in errors. So somebody didn't tell you, hey, and we just ran into this. Hey, we have a client. They wanted to move and just do essentially sending invoices. So they started sending invoices. The testing was with a trading partner directly. The trading partner has their own EDI in-house system. We sent them literally 3 invoices in, oh, well, we need another invoice. This one's got to have sales tax. This one's got to have freight charge. Okay, we send that. Oh, well, we need another one. And this one's got to have at least 4 items. And it needs to go to this particular warehouse, but it's being shipped to this ultimate customer. Can you send us an invoice like that? Well, are you doing business like that? So you got to get all of the requirements up front. What are you going to put me through? What testing do I have to do to get passed and polished and accepted on your system? So you're uncovering what they need you to do. You have that clear and concise. Okay. Sometimes you got to look at the specs. Can you read the specs? Can you understand the specs to know what a trading partner is asking you in their specs? So you don't need the specs missing key details, qualifiers, code lists, sample files. If you can get samples, that's great. Get samples. You know, there's a lot of moving parts when you're testing. You know, and a lot of things are going to create confusion, misalignment, and rework, remapping, changing a map, reconfiguring a map. Does your ERP, WMS, TMS have everything that they're going to ask you for during that testing? If not, you might have to go to actual programming and get somebody to customize those systems because you have missing data that trading partner is looking to. Did you look at that? If you didn't, now you're understanding why things are extending. You know, some people and some systems, they want you to use test data. Well, I know companies that their ERPs don't have test data. They don't have a sandbox or a test system to play in. So it's got to be production data. So then what ends up happening? People are manually changing the raw EDI just to get through testing. I've seen that done before. What does that do? That causes issues. So what is that going to end up happening? You're going to move somebody into production if somebody's manually doing it to get you through testing, to get you into production, and then all of a sudden you're live in production and you're scrambling because your system can't do what somebody just manually did to get you passed and approved. So you need to be able to track what's going on. You need to know who owns what steps, internal, the provider, the trading partner, what all that looks like. You need to also work through coordination and accountability in doing those type of things in the process. So one of the things that your provider, if you have this outsourced or even internal, what does it look like in your response times? If your team's not getting back to you, that extends things. You might have poor version control of your maps to know, hey, I need to go back a revision because there was a change that was made that was deployed that's not correct. How do I do that? You know, teams accidentally sometimes test against outdated logic. Sometimes people go through ERP, WMS, and TMS upgrades during the testing. I've seen that. Where all of a sudden, all that test information is now gone because somebody refreshed the system. How frustrating can that be? So think about these things. Do you have an upgrade that's coming up and you're trying to add a trading partner? Maybe you want to wait until after the upgrade because somebody refreshes the system, you lose everything. Now you're days behind again. You know, through these sessions, I try to handle and give you insight into different things and different moving parts and different things to understand and think about as you're going through the testing. And if it's stuff that this seems overwhelming and I'm not trying to shock you, reach out to us, EDI Support LLC. Reach out and find a contractor that does this on a regular basis. People that can help you along those lines to get things taken care of and done. And have visibility. Know what's working and what's not. You know, if a test failed, no one knows why if it's not visible to the problem. You know, sometimes dashboards will help you, error logs that are human readable messages, real-time alerts from your provider or from your in-house system to tell you what's going on, to give you an explanation as to what's missing. You know, people reach out and say, oh, well, can't AI do all of this? It could if you had automated responses from the other side. If you knew and your AI knew every piece and aspect of your business, if it knew all the parties that are involved. There's a lot of moving parts when you try to automate or do anything from an AI standpoint. I'm not saying eventually it can't be done, but I'm saying as of right now, everybody makes you go through testing. Just because you sign up with a provider doesn't mean you're exempt from testing. Doesn't mean that your integration to your back-end system is going to work out the box. All of those things. So understand that. You know, and what people start to do is people start to look at and say, hey, I can get 20 trading partners onboarded in 60 days. Oh, you can? Have you already reached out to all those trading partners? Have you already reached out to their teams? Have you already reached out to your internal teams? Have you set up a structure and built out everything that you need to do and know that you can do all of those requirements, and the ones that you can't do, you got exclusions for? Think about it. So understand and put a guide and a plan together of what you need to do, who's a part of it before your testing even begins. You got to know your internal landscape, external landscape. You got to understand who you're going to get involved when it comes to the mapping, who you're going to get involved when it comes to the ERP, WMS, TMS system, all of those things. You got to have people that are dedicated also to as a resource for the testing. Clear roles and objectives will get to help your EDI testing done a lot faster. And know what is your role and what is your provider's role if you're using an EDI provider. Some people don't understand that you have to get involved. So what I want to leave you with is you're the key to all of this. And if you don't feel you can be the key, then you need to outsource that and you need to hire somebody to help you and help you get through it. You know, don't try to wedge your testing in at the last minute and think you're going to get through everything. tight timelines usually are missed because people aren't planning. People aren't understanding what needs to be done. People are blindsided because they're not used to something that was missed or a requirement that the trading partner throws at them at the last minute. Also know that your trading partner has their own dedication, and it might not be dedicated to you. So any questions that you ever have, reach out. Jim Gonzalez, EDI Support LLC. We're here to give you insight, give you some thoughts, give you things to think about. I want you to comment, like, click the bell icon to get notified when we drop any new videos. We're on YouTube, we're on LinkedIn. Share our content, reach out, just do whatever you can to try to pass along the information when it comes to EDI. We have a Discord server. You can hop in there, learn some information, learn some stuff that's out there. Of course, all of this is free. It's free to have a meeting with me. Just check us out.